So yes, I would like to welcome my panelists to the stage. So we are going to be discussing new media and giving a voice to the underdogs. So I'm joined by Rana Askal, and she is the head of Womanity, and she also oversees an all-female radio station here in the Middle East, which is Nisa FM. So welcome. And I am also joined by Leah Batrami, and she is an award-winning filmmaker, Aroa Films. Who is in the media in the audience? Anyone from radio? Yeah? What about social media? All right, a few people. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. It's too bright.
It's very bright. Yeah. So what are your initial viewpoints about this topic?
Maybe if I can actually shoot back a question to the audience. Why do you think really media is important specifically for the portrayal of women?
Over there?
Yep.
It gives a voice to those who otherwise don't have it. So, for example, on social media, you can have many followers, and if you have that, but say you have on social media, you've got an Instagram account, say you have a couple of thousand followers, you can actually promote a person who has a small business who doesn't have that many followers and who doesn't have that social media experience.
Thank you. So it's an empowering tool. Yep. Can I hear another opinion? Why is media really crucial for how women is portrayed, for how women are portrayed?
Lady over there.
And I think we've got someone in the back.
Hi. It's empowering, but it can also be very dangerous and very damaging. People believe everything that they see on TV and social media. So I think it's important to find out who the source is, because in an age where everyone can be a filmmaker, it's a worrying time, I think.
Wonderful, okay. Thank you. Shall we hear one more? Just one more?
Lady over there.
It gives exposure to your idea. You can have an idea, but if nobody out there knows that you have this concept, how will you get business? So it gives exposure to your concept.
Great. Okay, so we've heard empowerment, sort of fake news, maybe if we can call it, that's the term of the day, and then it gives you exposure. So if I may introduce as well what we do at Womanity, and then I'll pick up on the topic. So I head up the disruptive media solutions for the Womanity Foundation. The Womanity Foundation has been around for more than a decade, and in the MENA region, they specifically focus on challenging gender stereotypes, so what we believe men and women should and shouldn't do, through the use of media. We do that through various different programs that we have in the region. One of them is Nisa FM, which is a fully dedicated radio station based out of Ramallah, Palestine, and you can see my colleague Maysoon was supposed to be sitting on this panel, but she couldn't make it, and hence I'm in her place today. And we have another program where it's an animated fiction series that it's in its third season. We produce these episodes around the life of Nuha, young Arab female journalist that just goes through on a day-to-day basis, and then we talk about what happens to her and what she faces as a young Arab woman on a daily basis. And somehow we try to bring up through the story the gender stereotypes that she faces. And we do have another project that we're currently looking at, which is the launch of a digital platform, an online platform that is targeted at young Arab millennials in Arabic. Obviously, all of our programs are in Arabic, to really try and address some of these issues and bring out some of these issues. But in addition to the points that we heard earlier about why media is specifically important for women, I'll share with you a very stunning statistic that I actually was shocked by when I first started learning about media and women. So according to the Arab Human Development Report, which was quite a few years back, still very relevant though, you'll be surprised to know that actually about 76.8% of the images that are portrayed about women in Arab media are negative. So when you watch anything, whether you're watching it, online, or whether, through traditional broadcasting, through radio, through print, 76.8% of the way that we are portrayed in the media is negative. And what does negative mean? It means that we are either portrayed as we're portrayed sexually, we're portrayed as being too greedy, we're portrayed as being illiterate, we're portrayed as being weak, we're portrayed as being dependent. And when you really think about that, if you think about how much exposure and how much that happens, because we can sometimes almost live in a bubble if we are empowered women. We think that everyone else is like us. We think that all women are empowered, but actually, if you kind of step back and look holistically at what is happening around at a broader level, and you kind of get into reading about some of this stuff, you'll actually understand that we do have a seriously big problem with how the media portrays, portrays women, and in what sense and in what shape and form, which makes it really important for us empowered men and women, and I apologize for excluding the men earlier, but it becomes really crucial for us to actually shift that narrative and shift how we are portrayed so that we are able to really change the narrative on how women and men are talked about.
Awesome. And Leah, what is your initial thoughts about it?
Thank you very much. I just go back a little bit in the story to explain it, to understand what we are trying to do with Aurora Vision. I graduated at the New York Film Academy 25 years ago, and then I went back to Italy, and I said, that's probably not exactly the field I want to be in, the film industry. Mm-hmm. I just want to try to put the film at the service of the unheard, of the people who don't have a voice. Most of them are women, of course. And so I involved my husband and a group of friends. So from that on, 25 years ago, we started making documentaries all around in the world. Then we felt we needed to create links in order to have a platform where people can meet. And 22 years ago, we founded the first film festival for interreligious and intercultural dialogue in the world. It started in Italy, and then it has some sections in Iran, in Jerusalem, in Bangladesh, all throughout the world. And this is still going on now, taken on by young girls, so it's still creating a platform for meeting, because having chances to meet, like in this wonderful occasion, it's so important, because when the unheard or underdogs, they feel lonely, it's much more difficult to go on. And so media can be a wonderful platform and place if you get to know face-to-face and you establish good contacts, and from that on. And then thinking, we started the film festival thinking that every filmmaker or every journalist, but mostly filmmakers, are multiplicators of opinion. If you can touch the heart of one director, one filmmaker, you can really make the change for many people. Mm-hmm. And then going on, I left the cinema for a few years. I became counselor in my region for international cooperation, so I could follow 140 projects throughout the world. And most of these projects are dealing with women empowerment. And so we tried to put also the media issue in all these projects. And in the last 5 years, after that experience, again we started with filmmaking, because we found that it's such an important means to make a change. So we founded the company called Aurora Vision, which means to bring the first light before the sunrise, mm-hmm. before the sunrise. And so what we are trying to do is to give the microphone, but more to give the camera and the lenses to those that are unseen, that are behind the curtains, but they want to come out, and mostly girls throughout the world.
Okay, excellent. No, thank you for that initial viewpoints. So how can we actually portray women in the media? How can we position them? First to you.
I think just as they are, in all their diversity and all their normal day-to-day interaction. I think positioning both men and women as the way that they want to be represented is fair enough. I think there is a lot also that we have to be cognizant of, which is that we do actually need a bit of training and a bit of understanding of how we can not fall into the traps of portraying both men and women in their traditional roles and in their traditional, in the way that the society, the culture forces us to think about, men and women. And that's why gender sort of mainstreaming becomes really critical, and gender sensitization becomes really critical in the media industry specifically. Mm-hmm. For Radio Nisa, and I'll give an example, for Nisa FM, part of what they do, part of their mandate, a very critical thing is partnering with their local community on training other media professionals on what it means to view the world through a gender lens. Mm-hmm. So let's say they are tackling a financial program through their programming. They make sure that they're integrating both perspectives of men and women, and they're viewing things through the perspectives of men and women, depending on the social constructs as well. So that becomes really critical, and it becomes really critical to make sure that we are not falling into the trap of presenting them within one framework and one box that they can't escape from almost.
Do you feel like women are in that box at the moment?
Well, absolutely. I think, it's not, it's not just me. It's very much data that suggests that we are portrayed in certain ways, referring back to my earlier statistics, but we are pushed into ways of presenting ourselves and portraying ourselves. They almost, in certain instances, become self-fulfilling prophecies, except for the few that believe that, no, actually, I just want to present myself the way that I am, and what I am is a lot more than what the society tells me to be.
Sure. And Leah?
I think there are three levels of giving the voice to the underdogs through cinema. And this, of course, I take this part. I like very much because we are giving such a good overview of the all matters, so I can just go inside with examples, and it makes much easier. So the first level is that you make a documentary on a situation. So you can present the problem, you can make grow the awareness of this. I make an example with my daughter. We made a documentary on the refugee camps of Eritreans in the north of Ethiopia, and we could go in a camp where none went before of the journalists or media. And we narrated the story of a great woman who's a doctor, Eritrean, who's working to save and rescue the refugee kidnapped in Sinai. And in a very short time, this film received a lot of awards from China to South America, India, all over the world. So it means not because it's good to receive awards, but it's good because everybody can know what's happening exactly to the young women in that camp and the young women kidnapped in the desert. So that's the first level, and that's important, so they can help for fundraising, all the matter. Then we have a second level, which is while you make a documentary or you make a film, you have the protagonist himself, or in this case herself, that she put her story in front of everybody. So she's very much exposed. This means she's going to make an interior journey. And maybe there is a group we go just because of the area. There is a wonderful group of mothers, Palestinians, Arabs, and Jewish, Israeli Jewish. And with a great woman, Gilly, they have a group, and they make documentaries about maybe an attack. The person who was the bomb and died, maybe a girl or a boy of 17 died,
okay.
And the victim who died. So the two mothers are making a documentary. In this way, documentary make a change because it brings them to realize what happened, to think about it, and to make, to make the change. So it's therapeutical in many cases.
Okay.
And then third and last level, we have a level in which we can give the instrument to young women throughout the world to be able to become filmmakers themselves, so make up an industry. And last year we had Dina, a Palestinian girl from Ramallah, came in from 1 year in Italy for her internship, and now she's working in the media and she's doing very well. And we have an Ukrainian girl since 2 years, and she's working based with us in Italy. And they are doing really great, because when you give the opportunity, especially to a young girl, a young woman, you give the instruments, they have such a power inside and such a strength and such a dedication that you don't find around. So that's a good way,
If I can just pick up on that, actually, and back to your question and back to what you were just saying as well, Leah. So one of the most, very contemporary thing that just happened, I believe, yesterday, if you're familiar with the Kuwaiti vlogger, Haifa Psiso, and she just launched her Unstereotype World video yesterday, and I would encourage all of you to just take, I think it's about 5 minutes, but it's a fantastic video that goes to show you the power of how unstereotyping can happen, and what happens when you are able to allow a platform for young women to actually come forward and be who they are, and the impact that they have beyond just their cause, for women, but more of an inclusive cause. So the video is about 5 minutes long, and it was actually part of an initiative that YouTube has launched earlier and has partnered with UN Women. It's a fantastic initiative, and it's called Content Creators for Change.
Okay.
And they have basically given their platform as YouTube, with everything that YouTube can offer in terms of skills and trainings and equipment and support to specific young men and women from the region, and told them, what is your dream? What is the message that you would like to portray? And Haifa Psiso particularly launched this specific video yesterday. I think it has made a few rounds since yesterday, really, to try and challenge the way the region is portrayed, and to try and show the diversity, the beauty, the almost also the sisterhood, the brotherhood that is present in the region across our different countries, and how we would like to be portrayed for what we really are. So that's a very interesting link as well to what you were saying about giving a platform and how you can help them, and how we are portrayed and how to challenge that.
Excellent. And that sort of brings us in quite nicely, because obviously we've got the traditional media, so radio, TV, and now we've very much got this new age media, so social media, podcasting. Obviously we had Raina up here before, which was excellent to see. So how do we, and how is new media, how is that affecting the work that you do, or are you bringing any of this into the traditional side of things? Tell us more about that.
So from a regional perspective, it's quite interesting. We still know that the majority of audiences in the MENA region still primarily take their news from traditional media. And specifically in countries, like in the Levant region, specifically in North Africa, you will see that the majority of audiences are still very much reliant on traditional media. They're still watching news channels. They're still watching their, TV broadcasters, regional TV broadcasters. And obviously that's different if you split it by age. You'll find the young millennials are more online. But in general, if you take a picture holistically, you'll see that the consumption is still more reliant on traditional media, radio.
Is that here in the UAE and all around the world?
That's more regionally. I don't have specific numbers on the UAE, but if you take the region, MENA, Middle East and North Africa as a whole, our primary source of information gathering is still happening across all ages and different segmentations of the audience, is still happening through traditional media. However, that doesn't mean that there's an extremely meteoric rise almost, for especially with young millennials, to tap into online social media. And that's where they're getting their news from, that's where they're getting their interaction on, and that's where they're almost living. So as people that are interested in influencing and pushing a change of behavior and perspectives on how men and women are perceived and all of that, we're interested in marrying both, because you can't think for what is happening today. You also have to kind of almost think to what is going to happen and what is already happening really quickly. But we have to still think about it as being reliant on both, as tapping into traditional media. So with Nisa FM's example, we have a fully fledged radio station with radio programming that is still very much traditional media. But we're also working on introducing podcasting, which is becoming an increasingly interesting aspect for radio stations and going digital in general for radio stations. With our animated fiction series, we are doing the same. We're trying to get the animated fiction series on regional broadcasters, so the traditional media, through TV, through partnerships with NBC, for example, with OSN. But we're also making sure that it's available on platforms that are being tapped into by younger populations. So it's more of marrying both. And I think it's great news because it means that obviously there's huge relevance still for cinema, for documentary, but there's also that.
I can add the numbers, take them not for granted, but in the media, the average is 46% are using or are getting information through the new media. But when you go to a lower age, below 30, you reach points of 85%. So if we want to talk to young people, of course, the integration offers great possibilities. But the new media nowadays, now when we make a documentary, we make always the 5-minute short film for YouTube and other means. And it happens that a lot of people get to see the short film, and when they know there is a film festival or a place, they come and see. Because we always push a lot saying that the new media, social media, should be a gate for the person-to-person meeting. That's why I think film festivals are very important after them, because you meet the people and you get to know them. But something very important with the new media, and especially women, we work a lot in conflict areas. And in conflict areas, now, to have the chance to give a voice, of course, there are a lot of fake news, yes, but when you can give a voice and spread it with social media, it's really effective. There was, I think 3 years ago, there was a moment in Jerusalem when the tension went much higher and higher. And a group that is part of our story is called Women of Faith for Peace. Women leader, when I say leader, I say really leaders in different religious groups, where yesterday someone spoke very well how it's difficult in religious groups for a woman to become a leader. So we made this group, and we had a meeting in Italy, and in the same time it happened that a boy from Faten community, Palestinian boy, 14 years, killed a nearly same age boy in the Jewish quarter, under the house of the Jewish woman, part of the group, and the Palestinian boy was killed in 3 minutes by the police. So we had 2 boys, very young, killed, and we had the mothers, not of those, but other boys that knew this. So we discussed what can we do, how can we make a change. So the 2 women of the group decided to make a very small message for the social media, trying to low down the situation. In 2 days, it had 1 million of viewers. And I can say in that way, it really lowered down the situation. And from that story and that video came the idea of the big march of 35,000 women from Jericho to Jerusalem to ask for peace. So it's a way of using the social media related to the classical, traditional, but to make a change. And I can really believe that there are so many young women throughout the world that if we can reach them and give them the opportunities, they will make the change.
Mm-hmm. No, I think these are excellent points you bring up, and it's nice to hear social media being used so positively to drive that. But I guess in the last couple of years especially, there are people on social media that perhaps, I don't know, the younger generation are looking at and getting inaccurate representations of what women should be like. What's your thoughts about that?
Again, if we have maybe I'd love to hear just the general views about whether social media is playing a positive part in reshaping the narrative about what men and women. Can we get maybe a microphone to the front, please?
So just a raise of hands, who thinks social media is quite positively portraying women? Negatively? Okay, so general consensus is negatively. Interesting.
But would love to hear more as to why. Why do you think that is?
Just let this lady over here.
In the front, yep.
First of all, thank you so much for everything that you guys have said. My name is Saad Sirka. I'm from Tabrid and NG. For the longest, so I'm going to sound very old. Back in the day, when I first went into communications, we were only 6 girls. And my parents went crazy when I told them I wanted to get into communications and into media, because they said, what are you going to do? You're going to be a model in front of the television? You're going to sell cars? You're going to wear bikinis? This is what you're going to do? And it was a huge deal. Today you walk into Zai University, that's where I graduated from, and you can't find a seat because everyone wants to become in the media profession. And that's great, but my issue is that we need to educate the community to understand that I don't need to show cleavage, I don't need to be light, I don't need to be بالعربي خفيفة, basically. I need to be serious. I need to have content for me to be taken seriously. And as you mentioned, the statistic is very true because I was part of it. You know, we were looked at as objects online. It was our duty. So when we see a woman that is misrepresenting what women on media are supposed to be like, we're not supposed to entertain it. We need to stop that, women and men alike. And it's very tempting to go with the flow, but it's what we're missing here is the education of why women are using media. Why are we becoming more heard? What does it mean to be empowered? It's not getting the power, it's understanding what to do with it. Because if you go back religiously, women had the power a long time ago. We've always had the power to do whatever we want. It was just with rules and regulations. So now it's just education on what to do with the empowerment and not competing. We're completing one another in this society. And that's in my opinion, that's a huge part of how we can represent ourselves online.
Thank you.
Lovely quote there.
Thank you, that was beautifully put.
Does anyone else have an opinion about this? You want to share?
Yeah, over there.
Oh, just over there.
Hello, my name is Tatiana, and I actually have a startup who decided to use this new media for a good purpose. So, building on what you were saying, we pretty much decided to educate women through these platforms. We launched in June. It's a platform in Spanish, where we empower women. We highlight these issues. Like, I love the Nuha. Like, I discovered it. I don't know Arabic, but I watched them all, and I identify myself. And what we've realized in these 4 months, we're up to 10,000 followers, all women who are so thankful. And they write to us like, thank you for giving us this content. Thank you for giving us this content to our phones, because there's so much there, but it's in an old media way. It's a long article, it's a long video. We are giving it in a liquid manner, if you want to say, where they're getting this content, they're being educated, while entertained at the same time. So I used to be in this position of, you know, what are these people, influencers or YouTubers, giving back to the world? And I saw the power that they were having on little kids, so we decided to turn it around. It's like, okay, let's use it for our advantage. So I do think that we need to be educated, but it also comes with a change of showing people that you can put more content there, that you can get the followers you want without showing cleavage.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope that helps and change your mind.
Thank you. And I'll just quickly say, just to also, sorry, one more.
One more really quickly.
Yeah, please.
So I love hearing that. And I've set up something similar back in 2013 called Qiyadiyat. And it's a professional networking leadership group for Emirati professional women. And for the same exact purpose, we wanted Emirati women to be seen in society as they are, professional, highly educated, We have marine biologists all the way to lawyers, to doctors, to experts in really niche fields. And we wanted that woman to be the one that teenagers, both males and females, looked up to, rather than the Emirati fashionista who's promoting whatever it is, a burger or whatever it is for money. So we're very thankful that we have these platforms. We just need to stop complaining about them and put forth role models and women who are more positive in that role for people to see and for people to get inspired from.
And I actually know about you, Qiyadiyat, actually. I've known about you for a while. So it's, kudos to you as well for what you're doing. I think we need more of that. I was actually going to go back and say that in the region, if you actually look at platforms in Arabic, because we are still very much predominantly an Arabic-speaking region. In Dubai, obviously, you can forget that sometimes because everything happens in English, but at the end of the day, the region is very much still driven in Arabic, and there is a huge demand on Arabic content online from young men and women. If you look at Arabic content in the region, online, social media and otherwise sort of new media, you will see that there is a horrendously low percentage of quality Arabic content that is available online to start off with. And then if you want to push the boundaries a little bit and you want to go and look at content that actually is creating positive social change in terms of for women empowerment and for inclusion, the percentage is even much lower. So the gap is there, the need is there. We just need to feed that with the right content and the right education, like you said as well.
Excellent.
I just would add something that go back to your previous question, compensation with traditional and new media. For example, in Europe, I cannot say the battle is won, but we are at a good point. 10 years ago, a girl with the veil on was seen immediately, terrorist, what this, and and it was really hard. And even in my city, I tried to help some girls that they couldn't find a job because nobody wanted to have a veiled girl in it. So then in the last years, many documentaries have been made throughout the world, many good films, and a lot of work through these great platforms. And I should say that now is much, much different. Still, we have to fight, and still we have to fight for the rights of presenting ourselves as we are without hiding completely as we are. And still there is a lot of prejudice, but a lot have been done in the last few years. So I think that even the idea or the image of girl in bikini on the stage can be changed, even if it's very subtle, because now, let's take with Instagram, it's getting, at least in Italy now, there are girls, very young girls, 18, they have millions and millions of followers, and in 2 years she made an amount of money that is unbelievable, just being nothing, not being an actress, not being a singer, just being on. And that's quite dangerous because this gives the wrong idea to the girls and boys, young girls and young boys throughout the world. But still, let's go on with very strong projects that can make the change. I bring just another example on this. This is a young boy because we say only girls, but even boy. In Bangladesh, the situation is not easy, especially for artists. And there is this photographer, Azaf. He was 21 years old, so talented, and he couldn't even afford a good camera. And by chance, we found one of his photographs given by the director of the Dhaka Film Festival. And we said, yes, that's wonderful. This was chosen as the opening photograph of the Vatican Pavilion at Milano Expo in 2015. The next year, he won the National Geographic Award for the best photography. And then just selling his photographs during film festivals, events, now he has all the equipment he needs, and he's winning a lot of awards. So that's a good story.
Excellent. Nice story. So we're going to have a couple of questions from the audience. This lady here. Just turn it on.
Yeah. So my name is Carolina. My question is, first I want to introduce something that I feel the new media and media in general, it supports media people. So it supports filmmakers, hosts, TV. I'm coming from more of a heavy industry, engineering background, so I feel still we are struggling in the field of that kind of heavy industry with men who are more of mentally harassing or compressing women to succeed and grow. So my question is there a way, or whether it's a media or a different platform, where such women can actually be empowered and, how we were saying, giving exposure and empowerment? And is like basically the question is media, can it support more of a heavy industry, or it's only for filmmaking and...
Absolutely. I think, one of the things that when we were earlier talking about the marriage between traditional media and new media, one of the really great things, obviously, that everyone knows, the power of new media is the ability to have that interaction between the sender of the message and then the receiver. And so you kind of lose track on who is actually creating content at the end of the day. Because when you engage with me on a platform about a particular topic, then you're creating content yourself. And I'm creating content, and then we're both producing something. And I think the power of new media and the way, I can give an example from our digital platform, and we're envisioning a phase where we are able to create a platform particularly to give a voice to cases exactly like that and everything else. So women in STEM is a huge issue, which relates as well to what you're saying, heavy industry, so science, technology, and engineering and mathematics. And that is becoming such a huge topic. We know the Gulf region graduates a tremendous amount of biology majors and from master's degrees and PhD degrees. We have the pipeline. But we need to shed more light, we need to do more education, and we need to engage. Like you said, we need to create a platform for you where you're able to also engage and highlight together with other women like yourself the state of your, the things that you go through in your industry and how your day-to-day lives are affected.
Awesome.
So it's not like all of a seen. In Hollywood, women in filmmaking are less than 10%.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle. I don't say in a one Middle East country, there is a law in the film department, 50% to female directors. So they have made the change much before Hollywood. And there is a struggle going on. And I take the example of a young girl that now she's a woman of my town, that she became the first woman, I don't know the word in English, the one who goes to the moon. The
astronaut.
Astronaut.
Yes, yes.
So the first woman astronaut staying 8 months on something in the sky.
Yeah.
She's the first in the
Basically.
world. And when I asked her, how did you make this change? She's, of course, engineer and everything. And she said, just being myself and not accepting to change and to struggle with men. So I just close and finish saying exactly like this, that organizing events like this, organizing contacts and trying to bring together all your wonderful, yesterday and today I heard so many wonderful projects all of you have. So it's so important to network them, to bring them, and in this way, even in the hard fields, we will not need to ask a man, can you please say this to the director of photography or to the crew because they don't listen to me because I'm a woman. Can you tell them? No, no more. Just be what you are and tell the men to work together and persuade them to work together with us and we can make the change.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Reina and Leah. Thank you. And thank you, audience, as well. Excellent questions.
Thank you.